My name is Mark Nordenberg. I'm the co-chair of the Board of Eradicate Hate, and in that role, it is my great privilege to welcome you to our 5th annual Eradicate Hate Global Summit. I offer that welcome not only for myself, but for the entire board, including the two amazing leaders you will hear from momentarily, my talented, tireless, and visionary co-chair, Laura Ellsworth, and our highly accomplished, laser-focused, and universally respected President Brett Steele. In recent days, the country has been consumed with concerns about political violence, and more particularly by last week's political assassination of Charlie Kirk in Utah. Let me begin then by expressing profound and sincere sympathy for his family, and by quoting some of what was said by Utah Governor Spencer Cox in addressing this particular form of hate-fueled violence. Speaking to young Americans, and this terrible crime did occur on a university campus, the governor said this: "You are inheriting a country where politics feels like rage. It feels like rage is the only option, but we can choose a different path. Your generation has an opportunity to build a culture that is very different than what we are suffering through right now. We can return violence with violence. We can return hate with hate. That's the problem with political violence. It metastasizes. We can always point to the other side. At some point, though, we have to find an off-ramp, or else it's going to get much worse. I still believe in our country, and I know Charlie Kirk believed in our country. I still believe there is more good among us than evil, and I still believe that we can change the course of history. I am hopeful because Americans can make it so. Many of us take hope from what we have seen in the high school summits that have been running for much of the day, believing that the next generation can do better if only we give them the time to do so. The roots of our initiative can be traced directly to the murderous attack at Pittsburgh's Tree of Life Synagogue on October 27, 2018. 11 worshipers from 3 congregations, Dor Hadash, New Light, and Tree of Life, were killed that day in the deadliest anti-Semitic attack in our country's history. The Eradicate Hate initiative was launched in the hope that it could be a lasting memorial to the victims of that attack by standing as a distinctive Pittsburgh contribution to the efforts required to diminish or even defeat the scourge of hate-fueled violence that so grievously wounded this community and has brought tragedy to countless other places. We have been blessed to work with large numbers of committed and creative partners in the nearly 7 years that have passed since that attack. One of them is Patrice O'Neill from Not in Our Town, who has contributed to each of the 5 summits and whose documentary, Repairing the World, Stories from the Tree of Life, has been so central to the development of our high school summit. I make that point now because I did not want Patrice, should she be here, to think that I am being disloyal when I say that I also had the chance to watch another different kind of Tree of Life documentary last week. This one was titled Confronting Hate, Responding to the Tree of Life Attack, and it is the first documentary produced by the Debrief with John Becker. The Debrief documentary consists of segments of interviews with two Tree of Life worshipers whose lives were spared, but who nonetheless paid a horrible price as a result of that attack. They have become our friends and are people for whom I have boundless admiration and respect. Dan Legger, the most seriously wounded worshiper to survive the attack, and Andrea Wedner, who also was seriously wounded, and whose mother, 97-year-old Rose Mallinger, with whom she was worshiping that morning, was killed as they took cover together in the synagogue's sanctuary. The segments of their interviews are interspersed with segments of interviews conducted with some true heroes, the police officers who came to their rescue, some of whom were also grievously wounded, and the EMTs who provided the on-site treatment that they needed so that they could be safely transported to some of our great area hospitals. The Pittsburghers in the room know that this attack literally did occur in Mr. Rogers' neighborhood, just a few blocks from where Fred Rogers had lived. And it was interesting to me that Dan and Andrea, both true Pittsburghers, used the language of Mr. Rogers by saying that as they lay in their house of worship, badly wounded and fearful for their lives, they looked for the helpers, and the helpers in this case came. There is a particularly poignant passage from Dan's interview where he describes lying on a stairwell, certain that he was dying, and seeing a pant leg and a boot come down near his head, and hoped that this was a helper and not the shooter. He also recalls later looking up through what he called a gauzy haze and seeing a group of people hovering over him. He believed that these were his friends from the Jewish Burial Society who had come to prepare him for burial, and he was grateful for their help. Fortunately, however, they were members of his hospital team who were working feverishly and successfully to keep him from that fate. One thing that passage underscores is that we can all be helpers. And as was true with the police and the paramedics and the hospital teams and even the Jewish Burial Society, we will not all help in the same way, but by playing the roles that we are best equipped to play in the broader effort to reduce hate-fueled violence, we can make a difference. And the purpose of this summit is to bring people together so that we can develop and share more effective ways for each of us to be helpers in this ongoing struggle. So let me relinquish the podium to the person who, more than any other, deserves credit for bringing us all together. And on the occasion of this, our 5th Eradicate Hate Global Summit, a summit that she envisioned and brought to life, let me ask that we welcome Laura Ellsworth with a well-deserved round of applause.
Welcome, everyone. I had the great honor this morning of welcoming a huge number of people to Eradicate Hate for the first time. If you are new to the summit, raise your hand. Beautiful, thank you. It's my privilege now to be able to welcome back to Pittsburgh all of the people who have been here before. many of you from the inception 5 years ago. I had dinner on Friday night with a good friend who has been here with us throughout, and he said, "Oh, I'm so glad to be back. The summit is more necessary than ever before." And he paused for a minute, and then he said, "We say that every year, don't we? What does that tell us?" And what that tells me is that I am glad to be here with all of you, because all of us know that hate is not going to go away in this world. And all of us know that we are faced at a moment in our nation's history where we're going to have to answer the question of what kind of a society do we want to be? Do we want violence to guide us? Violence guided the United States for a long time when I was a kid. I remember watching JFK and Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, Bobby Kennedy. But then it stopped because this nation chose to turn away from that kind of violence. Our nation knows how to do that. And the history that Mark gave you is more important than ever before, because what we believe at Eradicate Hate is that no matter who you are, or where you're from, or what you do for a living, or how old you are, there is something you can do to prevent people from being hurt in this world simply because of who they are. This is not a problem for somebody else. It's not for us to pontificate about what somebody else should or should not be doing. Eradicate Hate, the reason we have all of these disciplines is because everybody in this world has something that they can do to be a part of a better world. Some of you are experts. Some of you are novices who know nothing about the field. You are all equally equipped to make a difference in your circles and in this world, and we are so grateful to you for coming here to Eradicate Hate, to ask yourself, what am I going to do? What am I going to take away from Eradicate Hate? What is my piece of the solution? I shared with people this morning that above my desk is a Mother Teresa quote, which, to paraphrase, says, "Do not wait for leaders. Be one, each to the other, every day." You know what the right thing is to do. You know in your heart, you know in your life. So just start putting one foot in front of the other. That's what we did at Eradicate Hate. We didn't know where it was going to take us, but we knew that we wanted our community to be remembered not for what he did, but for what we did. And in everything that has been done since, we have been inspired and animated by the survivors of that horrific event. Because they, who suffered the most terrible event in their lives, unimaginable to most of us, have become some of the preeminent leaders in this space. And that courage and that dedication is our North Star. So I know, believe me, I know, whenever a new thing happens, you get knocked back on your heels and you think, does any of it matter? Does any of what we do matter? And I'm here to tell you the answer is yes. Every single thing that we do matters. And the more that happens, the more we step up and help solve this problem ourselves and together. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this work. And let's get down to business together.
All right, I promise this is the last of the welcoming remarks. So we come together today during a time of heightened political, hate-fueled, and school-based violence. Just using the United States as an example, and I know we have 10 countries represented in the room. Just using the United States as an example, we saw the attacks on Charlie Kirk, multiple Minnesota lawmakers, including Melissa Hortman and her family, Governor Shapiro, who will be speaking here tomorrow. We also saw the murder of Israeli embassy staff and the firebombing of peaceful protesters. We saw countless school shootings, including Evergreen last week, Annunciation Catholic School the week before, and Abundant Life Christian School, whose survivors are in the room with us today. And lastly, we've seen assassinations of leaders of the business community, like Brian Thompson. Responses to recent attacks included celebrations of violence, conspiracy theories, scapegoating, and even calls for civil war. This accelerates and exacerbates the challenge rather than deflating the hate. These responses contribute to both the normalization of violence and the dehumanization of difference. We have been in moments of political violence like this before, as Laura mentioned, and we've forged a path out, and we need to do so again. As you will hear from Governor Shapiro tomorrow, we must all speak with moral clarity in condemning all forms of hate-fueled violence, no matter who is attacked. Hate-fueled violence is preventable. You will hear countless examples this week of what works, and I encourage you to take it back to your communities. But it will take all of us working together to ease these tensions, take down the temperature, and prevent future attacks. There's a Jewish teaching from the Talmud. It's not your duty to complete the work, but neither are you free to desist from it. That's why we're here. For the practitioners in the room, I know we're being asked to do more with less. Our grant funding was cut too. Government funding, not only in the United States, but around the world, is being redirected, whether due to changing priorities or a focus, greater investment in the national defense, as we're seeing across Europe, and a diversion away from prevention programming. Less government prevention funding means we all need to step up and do more. And we all have a role to play. Look around at the people in this room. You can see one another better than I can, because all I can see is light. But more than 240 of you are academics, where you have an opportunity to influence the hearts and minds of future leaders. More than 230 of you are educators in the K-12 setting. And I know you dream of the day where you no longer have to endure active shooter drills. Nearly 200 of you are practitioners, and nearly 100 of you are mental health and behavioral health specialists who are playing an outsized role in preventing the next tragedy. More than 80 of you are law enforcement. Thank you for your service. More than 70 of you are faith leaders who remind your congregations and communities that we are all part of something larger than ourselves. More than 60 of you are philanthropists who are supporting this work, not just with your checkbooks, but with your hearts and your minds. There are students. We had 457 students and educators in this room earlier today, and another 50 plus students registered for the Global Summit. Tech leaders, active military and veterans, over 35 in the media. So the greatest media coverage we've ever gotten for the Eradicate Hate Global Summit. And last but not least, I want to give special recognition to the 55 people here who identify as survivors. Your experience informs our work in everything we do at Eradicate Hate, and we thank you for lending your voices to prevent future acts of hate-fueled violence. If you'll allow me a point of personal privilege, I can't think of anything that gives me more hope than simply looking around this room and seeing all of you who've come to be a part of the solution we're all building together. You believe that progress is still possible if we're willing to work together and make it happen. So what is Eradicate Hate doing about it? In past summits, we had a panel immediately after State of Hate of Summit Responds, and we were told, that's so much. We can't take it all in at once. So you'll hear throughout the summit the work of our 15 working groups and the work of our year-round programs. But in a nutshell, we're raising awareness so that everyone understands the concrete steps they can take to prevent hate-fueled violence, what to look for, and where to go for help. We're building capacity of all different types of prevention practitioners from across 15 different sectors so they understand the role they can play within their sector to help. And we're connecting the individuals in crisis, the family and loved ones looking for help for someone they think might turn to violence, with those practitioners to prevent future violence. I encourage you, please, take the next 3 days to learn, to engage, to meet your colleagues. Oftentimes, the greatest experts aren't just on the stage, but they're also sitting right next to you in this room. We will ask you, what programs have you learned about that you can take back to your communities and implement? What cross-sector partnerships have you built as a result of this summit? And what new ventures, what new programs do you want to create that were inspired by this summit? All of these have happened in the past. Please get involved, join this global community of practice, and I hope you enjoy the next 3 days. Now, slide please. One bit of housekeeping. This is the first year we have an app. We received a lot of feedback, especially from funders, that they wanted to understand who was in the room and have a way to connect with them. So, whether you're using the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store, please take the opportunity to download the app. It'll give you all kinds of resources for each of the sessions you're in, documents to download, points of contact, and many other ways to get involved. Thank you for being here, and I look forward to seeing what we build together.